Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message. I think I need some lotion. My hands, oh, you're here. Hello. Hello. I didn't see you there. My hands were ashy. I needed some lotion because I need to move from crackly to supple. Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, where we are shedding our skin to move into greater suppleness and flexibility. So I have a question for you. When our skin gets dry, what do we do to remoisturize and to restore its suppleness and softness? What about chapped lips? We apply some kind of lotion or other kind of skin treatment or lip balm, chapstick. Some of us grew up using Vaseline for our lips and face because that's what our moms put on. Anyhow, that's a different story for a different time. The point is, what is the spiritual equivalent when our lives need moisture, when our lives need attention to keep healthy, strong, supple, flexible, soft, and fluid, radiant, and vibrant? What's the spiritual equivalent to lotion or Vaseline or water? This week, we're going to look at how the concept of welcoming evolution and welcoming growth are, excuse me, my throat is crackly, are ways that we nurture ourselves to be the very best we can be, which then, because it's what happens, which then results in our greater ability to make whatever life-affirming contributions are ours to make to this thing called life. So are you ready? Are you sure? So when you see these images, what comes to mind? Could be any number of things, but one of the first things that comes to mind probably is dry. Dry skin, dry heels, crackly lips. And when your heels get cracked like that or your lips get cracked like that, what comes up? Like, what do you feel? Usually some form of pain or soreness. Right? When I grew up in Pittsburgh years ago as a kid, in wintertime and the dry, cracked lips, and you'd smile and your lip would split and bleed. Oh my, the pain, the soreness. So where in our lives do we feel pain, some form of soreness, because there is a dryness in our lives? Dry like the desert. Dry like a dying plant or dead plant, which once again, what comes to mind with these images? All are forms of something that is dry. But this dry isn't painful or sore. This version of dry is brittle, barren, lifeless, and dead. Once again, if we are not demonstrating the lives that if we are not demonstrating to the best of our ability, the life-affirming possibilities that we are an expression of, then in some way we are manifesting and expressing barrenness, brittleness. And that goes for the individual as well as the collective. Because what's going on right now in many places in the world, including right here in the United States of America, what did people used to call the USA? The land of milk and honey. And yet, in many ways, the milk and honey that they are referencing is a lifeless, barren, and dead form of milk and honey. In other words, the milk and honey that they are referring to is toxic. It's not life producing. So what is our invitation then regarding this? Our invitation, first and foremost, is to, sorry, aloha, but yeah, we talked to you last week. We're go ahead, go. Although, thank you for the water reference, because you know what? Thank you. Because the water reference ties into what it means to increase our flexibility, to go with the flow. Because what do our indigenous siblings say? Water is life. So as we increase our flexibility, how does it impact our lives? As we become more flexible, more alive, we move with greater ease, and we flow in this thing called life. And this is when our lives produce the divine qualities of spiritual magnificence. This is where suppleness, this life-producing expression, refreshing, reinvigorating, and our lives become abundantly lush with all that life truly is. But there's work to be done. Are you ready to do the work? We will see. Flexibility is to evolve, to be. Because you don't do evolution, and you don't do flexibility, you do certain things to become more flexible. You are inspired to do certain things to encourage evolution, but it all begins by being. Be flexible so you can change with change. What comes first? Empty yourself. Open up. Or as Dr. Holmes would say, be open at the top. Emptying yourself means surrender and relinquish the old paradigms of who and what you think you are or think you must be. Be water, my friend. How often do we get into combat situations where we fight the paradigms, the ideas, the indoctrination, or whatever it is, right? We fight it in ways that actually give it greater strength rather than being flexible and evolving, which, as we're being asked, how does flexibility factor into one's evolution? How does your being flexible have your evolution as a natural byproduct? And when we say one's evolution, who or what is the I that is evolving? Is it your persona? Is it your divine essence, your spiritual truth? Who or what is the I? And how do I evolve? What does it even mean for me to evolve? We get the concept of caterpillar metamorphosis to butterfly. Caterpillar transforms to butterfly. Is that what we mean when we talk about our evolution? Is it a metamorphosis? Is it a transformation into a new form? Or is it a transformation into a new form of being? Jesus is the name of a man, whereas Christ means the universal principle of divine being. The generic human, the divine pattern, the ideal toward which humanity evolves, the apex of individual evolution and collective, the conscious union of the person knowing that they are what God is. Yeshua embodied the Christ, just as Siddhartha embodied the Atman or the Buddha nature. Same concept. Jesus increasingly became the truth of his being as the Christ, as his mental equivalence, as his mentality increasingly perceived this relationship of human and Christ principle, which is the truth of all people. It is our natural state. It is inherent. It's not just in us, but it is all that we are. This Christ has come in a certain measure of power throughout the ages to different individuals. And it's still, because it's the truth of our being. So it doesn't per se come to us like the mailman comes to the house. It's already there. But as we do, becoming more flexible, becoming more supple, becoming more, then, oh, it's like an idea springs to your mind. The idea came to me while sleeping. Well, it was already there, right? It was already there. But in that space, when we are open, we see and perceive the truth of being. So that still shows up because it's always present, the divine wisdom, intelligence, and creativity. And it is inherent as and within and around all of us all the time. Breathe. Success isn't about never falling. It's about rising every single time, stronger and more determined, because each setback is a set up for a greater comeback. See, a lot of people think success, a lot of people think this thing called science of mind and spirit is about we're never gonna fail, we're never gonna fall, we're never gonna mess up. That ain't got nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with it. Because if I run outside on an icy street and don't pay attention, I'm going to fall. Because that's what gravity does. If I go on an audition for a Broadway musical, I'm going to get turned down. I don't even have to question that. Because as much as I would like to think that I'm an excellent singer and dancer and, triple threat, as much as I would love to believe that, that's not my skill set. So I'm going to get told audition after audition, no. But if I perceive that as failure, then I can't truly grow. So our invitation is to practice. As Bruce Lee said, and I'm going to use his words, he says, fear. I often use respect, but I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. It's the repetition of. So rather than, so how do you meditate? How do you journal? How do you vision? Like, how consistent do you do it? For example, do you do a spiritual mind treatment every day? And do you do it only when something is going wrong? Or do you, in essence, stay in prayer, stay in meditation, stay in mindfulness to the best of your ability more often than not? Mastery of a skill comes from repetition and practice. If we have a strong picture or mental concept of what we desire and we hold on to that mental equivalent, regardless of the circumstances or conditions, then we must sooner or later manifest according to that concept. And in time, through evolution and law, that conception comes to the moment of birth or of projection into the objective world. That is the way of nature. And that is the law of all creation. So how do we practice this? How do we practice having this mental equivalent and then engaging in the thoughts, the words, the emotions and feelings, the behaviors and actions in order for sooner or later that must come to fruition? A world that works for all, peace on earth, goodwill to all, food for war is extinct. Like I said, peace on earth, goodwill to all, homes, nutritious and healthy food, no more lead or other chemicals found in foods that are on grocery store shelves, no more lead in water or other contaminants. Healthcare for all. How do we anchor in spiritual principle, in that mental equivalent of what we desire to experience individually and collectively, and then maintain the practice and allow nature to do what nature does, the law of creation, allow it to do what it does and manifest it? One of the things I used to love most about studying Aikido was also studying the wisdom of the founder of Aikido. Morihei Ueshiba, or O-sensei, said, life is growth. If we stop growing physically, spiritually, emotionally, then technically and spiritually we are as good as dead. Are you emotionally growing? Am I? What does it mean to grow emotionally or spiritually, psychologically, to grow in our relationships? Or are we dry and barren and brittle? Youth is not entirely a time of life. Youth is a state of mind. It is not wholly a matter of ripe cheeks and red lips and supple knees. It is a temper of the will, a quality of the imagination, a vigor of the emotions, a freshness of the deep springs of life. It means a temperamental predominance of courage rather than timidity, an appetite for adventure over complacency and the addiction to ease. Nobody grows old by merely living a specific number of years. People grow old only by deserting their ideals and their dreams. True, years may wrinkle the skin, but to give up one's interest and passion and vision wrinkles the soul. Worry, doubt, self-distrust, fear and despair, all of these things that are non-life affirming, these are the long, long years that cause the head to bow and turn the growing spirit to dust. So whatever your years, there is in every being's heart the love of wonder and awe, the undaunted challenge and excitement of events, the unfailing childlike appetite for what's next, and the joy and the sheer bliss that comes from engaging in this game of life. You are as young as your faith. You are as old as your fear, as young as your hope, as old as your despair. In the central place of every heart, there is a recording chamber. And so long as it receives messages of beauty, cheer, joy, happiness, love, wonder, and courage, then your years will be an expression of your youth. When the wires are all down and your heart is covered with the snows of pessimism and the ice of cynicism and apathy, then and only then will you have grown old. What do you do to remain flexible and young? Physically, emotionally, spiritually? What do you do to maintain your childlike power? Not just innocence, but power. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. To a young heart, everything is fun. You are never too old to become younger. And youth is not a time of life. Youth is a state of mind. What is your state of mind regarding your eternal youth? How do you sip from, not even sip, I'm not going to, well, we'll start there. What is your practice for sipping from the fountain of youth? To such a degree that you don't even have to sip. You become a channel for the infinite fountain of youth to flow through you, in you, as you. And that everyone in your presence now becomes drenched by this youthful flow that you exude. breathe. Part of our encouragement or inspiration or invitation to practice is there's a samurai maxim that says, a person who has attained mastery of any single art will reveal that mastery in every action. This is why samurai, before learning how to use the sword, had to study something else, maybe the tea ceremony, flower arranging, poetry. And when they have mastered any of these, that mastery then shows up throughout their lives in every action. In court, it shows up through every action, including how they would wield the sword. Because we're the common denominator. So if we have attained mastery, enlightenment, the awareness of who and what we are, then why would that only show up on Sunday? Why would that only show up when we're in a practice session? Evolution is all the time. Enlightenment is all the time. God is all the time. Are you familiar with this movie? Did anyone have a chance? Did you see this movie? Now, there are many people who, it is Hollywood. So of course there's action and violence and stuff in it. It's Hollywood. And a lot of people are like, well, if she was really, had access to 100% capacity of her mind, she would be more compassionate and less robot-like. She would be more in tune with her emotional self as love and peace or whatever, versus, and yeah, that's a conversation that we may have when we get to next year's summer metaphysical movie study thing. But for the sake of this conversation, as she unlocked more of her total self, Lucy gained, quote unquote, gained greater awareness of what she could do, of what she was, because her sense of being was expanded. Involution is the cause, and evolution is the effect. When a practitioner thinks, or gives a treatment, or makes a prayer, the practitioner is dealing with involution, which is the first step of the creative order. This is what the Bible calls the Word. That which follows is evolution, or the unfoldment of the Word, the concept, the answered prayer, into objective existence. And the Word was made flesh. This is what I mean when I say we don't simply say amen, but the manner in which we live is our amen. So what is your practice of evolution? What does evolution mean to you and for you? What would be our practice to help the collective to evolve? The collective consciousness, is it possible for the collective consciousness to truly evolve? Do we believe to truly evolve so that a world that works for all is made manifest in objective existence? Do we believe that that's actually possible? If not, why not? And if so, what are we doing to ensure that it is? Evolution is an eternal unfoldment. It's not just a once in a while. It's eternal all the time. Life reveals itself. Life reveals itself to whoever is receptive to it. And then when we say life, God, source, spirit, the truth of being, it's ever present. But to the person who is not desiring to see it, they're not going to see it. Right? Imagine it this way. Have you ever gone somewhere for vacation or visiting, and it's your first time there, and you're going about your business? Like, I'll reference when Tracy and I went to Jamaica several years back. As we're looking around, depending on where I am, I'm going to notice certain things. And then Tracy taps me and says, "Did you see this?" And I turn. I'm like, I was just there. I didn't even see that. I didn't notice, but it was there. But because of where my filters were, I was looking for other things. Maybe I was observing the colors of the room or the space. Maybe I was looking at the textures on the wall or something. And then Tracy points out, "Did you see the bullet hole in the wall?" No, I didn't even. Life reveals itself to whomever is open to receive it, open at the top. This is part of the whole creative process of involution to evolution. So once again, when we think of evolution, what is your practice? What is your process to move from what you are being now to the true beingness that you are? Evolution is a principle which, though invisible, finds manifestation in every form of life. It is the logical and necessary outcome of universal intelligence or spirit. But evolution is an effect of intelligence. It is not the cause. Evolution follows involution. Just like thought precedes word. Involution is the idea, while evolution is the unfoldment of the idea. Involution precedes evolution with mechanical, it's an important word, mechanical precision, and is propelled by an immutable law, the law of cause and effect, or karma, cause and effect. What is your involution on any given day? What are the ideas and the concepts of your mental equivalent? Because it's always working. It doesn't take time off, right? It's not like certain members of government who can shut down the government. Involution, evolution cannot be shut down, cannot be stopped. I don't care who's in office. Even if you're in office, you can't shut it down. So what is your involution? Because your involution always precedes, cause always precedes effect. And if you're not sure of your involution, look at your effect. What is happening around you? That which you are directly part of the creation process, as well as the creation process that is being imposed upon you from other aspects of. Because we have to expand it to recognize that like Harriet Tubman, she didn't create slavery. Her involution didn't create that. And yet her involution created the circumstances by which her evolution got her free. And her involution became the evolution that helped others become free. See, it doesn't just happen in isolation. So what is your involution? Our evolution is one of creative ability, not absolute truth. Just like an artist, no matter the medium of expression and creativity, the artist evolves, they stretch, and they grow as an artist, which then influences and impacts them as a person. But it does not change the essence of who and what they are. It changes what they can do. Breathe. So if you remember last week, I shared one of the paintings that my mother ended up hanging in the house. This is the painting that she swapped. So last week was the woman on the roof. My mother moved that one upstairs and moved this one to the hallway. Like as soon as you would come into the house, it was right there on the wall to your left. What comes to mind when you see this painting? And why did I put this in here to relate to involution and evolution? How does this tie into what I shared on the slide before? Just asking questions. What does it mean for you to grow into yourself? And what must you release and receive to be your whole self? Breathe. Have no rigid system in you, and you will be flexible to change with the ever-changing world. Do not be rigid, be flexible. Your flexibility gives you the skills and the mindset to be able to navigate and flow like the tree that bends in the wind versus the one that does not move and is broken by the wind. So don't be rigid. Be flexible. Adapt what is useful. Reject what is useless. And add what is specifically your own. In essence, Bruce is inviting us to be open at the top. Right? So just for the sake of conversation, suppose you like certain rituals and music within Christianity. It works for you? Then listen to it, do it. But understand the consciousness of and being flexible rather than being rigid. See, so I can read the Bible and take the stories metaphysically without literally believing in the devil or hell or damnation, etc. Adapt what is useful. Reject what is useless. When you go to a buffet, you don't eat everything. I don't know if anyone does that. They literally eat everything there. I mean, maybe. And if they do, I'm sure they're not doing it all on the first sitting. There's a lot of plates they have to put in front of you in the first go round. They may go over there and get a little bit of this and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Go sit down, eat it, and then go get something else, a little bit of that and a little bit of that and a little bit of that, and then go sit down and yum, 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 yum. And then that, and that, yum, 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 yum. Adapt what is useful. Release, reject, surrender what is not. Add to yourself what is specifically your own. You are one thing only. You are a divine being. You are an all-powerful creator. You are a deity in jeans and a t-shirt. And within you, not just within you, but you are all that you are, dwells the infinite wisdom of the ages and the sacred creative force of all that is, all that will be, and all that ever was. That is what you are. O-sensei says, when you bow deeply to the universe, it bows back. When you call out the name of God, it echoes inside you. There's my mind is drawing a blank right now, a blank right now, a blank now. When you stare into the abyss stares back into you. It reminds me of that, the idea that where we are and what we project is reflected back. So when you bow to the universe, because the universe and you are one and the same, remember what Pythagoras said, know thyself, and you will know the universe and God as well. So when we bow to the universe, of course, the universe bows back because it recognizes itself as us. And when you call out the name of God, just like if I say the name Raymont, it echoes inside of me because it is my own name. It resonates with me because it's my own name. So too is the name of God your own name. Wisdom requires a flexible mind. Do more than simply believe. Practice. You remember last week we talked a little bit about this concept of hate? Well, be mindful. Hate fills your body and mind with tension, right? Tension, tense, tension. Grit your teeth, clench your jaw, tension. After a while of that, you get a cramp and you end up sore and you can't move freely. Hate fills your body and your mind with tension. To injure an opponent is to injure yourself. To control aggression without inflicting injury, that is the art of peace. To neutralize aggression without inflicting injury. When I was a public school teacher and, kids would get into fights, until I learned the secret of them not fighting in my room or in my presence. It took me a while to learn the secret, but I learned the secret and it never happened in my presence anymore. But it's a different story. When two kids would fight, I can't just run up there and be like, I can't injure the kid to get them to stop fighting. So how do I control their aggression? How do I neutralize their aggression without inflicting injury on them? And in a way where they can no longer injure each other or anyone else. That's the art of peace. How do we do that with any of war and the consciousness that creates war? That's our invitation. So we have to start with not being tense, but be flexible, be ready, be supple. And if you remember from last week, well, actually, we'll get there in a moment. Use only that which works. Take it, sort of what he said earlier, take it from any place that you can find it. Apply what works, what Dr. Holmes did to create science, mind, and spirit. And Bruce reminds us, to hell with circumstances. I create opportunities. In other words, I don't, quote unquote, I am not bound and made rigid by the circumstances that I see and experience around me. Rather than saying, oh, woe is me, for I am subject to slavery or sexism or toxic patriarchy. No, I create circumstances. I create new circumstances by stepping into greater possibilities and opportunities. I am a powerful being, so I create liberation, not enslavement. I create love, not hate. I create rather than, what do we say? We are not bound. We are not made rigid or barren or lifeless by precedent. We are set free and made powerful by principle. Now, breathe. You may remember a couple of these from last week. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. If you spend too much time thinking about a thing, you'll never get it done. One of the greatest difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. And Dr. Holmes told us in the Sermon by the Sea, find me 1,000 people who know, right? They know what science of mind is. They use it. They live it as a way of life. And the world will no longer be famished. How important it is that each one of us in our own simple way shall live from God to God, with God, in God, and to each other. When we know what it is, practice it, and live it as a way of life. So our acronym for this week is practice, eat. I've made my buffet reference. Anyhow, keep in mind, you are what you eat. You remember that from years ago? We would, anyhow, you are what you eat. EAT. You are what you embody, what you apply, and what you transcend by way of your practices, which have become a way of life. And Dr. Holmes reminds us, we tend to become like that which we identify the self. Do you identify yourself with God, with love, joy, wonder, creativity? Or do you identify yourself with, I'm broke, I'm old, I can't, no one likes me, etc., etc.? Yeah, exactly. This is the practice, though. And it gets uncomfortable at times. I know. But right here, where you are, is heaven, right where you are standing. And that is the place to train. What did Dr. Holmes say? We believe that heaven is within. and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. So how do we engage in shuhare in such a way that we are actively practicing heaven right now? Samurai. The literal concept or the literal meaning of the word means to serve or to wait upon. The true meaning of the samurai is one who serves and adheres to the power of love. Bet you didn't get that image from samurai, the whole carrying the sword but yes, the true meaning of, not the abuse of power, not the aggression, not the hate, but the true meaning, one who serves and one who adheres, one who is bound by the principles of and the power of love. And to that end, Bushido, the way of, Bushido, the way of the samurai, the way of the warrior, has various virtues or values that the samurai honored and embodied. To that end, okay, so what are our values? If we were to consider ourselves modern day samurai, where does integrity show up for us? What about compassion, duty and loyalty, honesty and sincerity? What does it mean for us to practice these virtues as a way of life? Breathe. Yeah, I know. Santa Claus, you better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is fighting a dragon. So Santa's not fighting the dragon. Santa is training with the dragon. Santa is, once again, what you identify yourself with, you become. So Santa is training with, again, the dojo, to embody the wisdom and to be that divine expression of love. The samurai, one who adheres to the principles of the way of love. This is why Santa is basically a divine avatar of so much goodness and gift giving and service and happiness during the Christmas season. So how are you invited to embody precisely that? The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 gives us the means to actively eat, embody, apply, and transcend. Once we learn the truth of our being, we begin to embody it. We apply spiritual principles to our lives and transcend the attachments and addictions to the non-life affirming aspects of life. Like a science of mind and spirit samurai, we clarify our values and virtues, which enable us to transform and heal self, others, and the collective. We can, in essence, declare the vere universum vivus vici, which is a modern Latin phrase meaning, by the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe. I know some of those words. By the power of truth, I, as an infinite and eternal being, have mastered my awareness of what the universe is and what I am as it. This week's affirmation, our declaration: I will say it first, and if it resonates with you, I invite you to say it with me the second time. But hold up. I don't want to do this one. Let's do the remix. I stretch my entire being, from my body to my relationships to my consciousness, keeping myself supple, open, active, and lovingly alive. Together, I stretch my entire being, from my body to my relationships to my consciousness, keeping myself supple, open, active, and lovingly alive. And so it is. This week's journal questions: in what areas of my life am I so rigid that I prevent change or growth? What are some ways or areas of my life that I can be more open and flexible? What can I do to reawaken, reinvigorate, or maintain my youthfulness? What 3 spiritual practices do I engage in every day? What does this mean for me as a practice? By the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe. What does it look like to truly live Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 as a way of life? And lastly, what does it mean and what does it look like for me to be a Science of Mind and Spirit samurai? Our practice this week. Are you ready? This week, share with someone and discuss what it means to embody and live the way of love. What, if any, are the pros and cons to living the way of love? Breathe. As we enter into this space of prayer where I simply will say, knowing that what I am is God, the creative presence of all that is God, the infinite God, the all God. What it is, I must be, because there is only what it is. And so I simply stand, I live, move, and have my beingness as it. And all of creation responds to me because all of creation is it, and I am it, and it is all. So my word is the word of God, and all of the universe, God, responds to itself as my word. And what is true for me is true for everyone watching now. That's how powerful we are. And the infinite law, always doing what it does, responds to us accordingly, taking our involution and manifesting it as our evolution. And simply knowing this, I know that every breath, every thought, every word, every emotion and feeling, and every action and behavior is a divine demonstration of answered prayer. Breathe. And so it is. And so it is. Blessings, much love and appreciation. I will either see you during the week somewhere, or I will see you right back here as we shed more skin and see what's next. Love you.